Hi there and welcome to Four Wheels Good. Today Ian Royle will be taking a spin in BMW's Z3 and we'll be looking at the development of your car's windscreen. But first, have a look at why some car manufacturers are very unhappy with the standard of some copy parts.
Oh no, not again. How much will that cost? That's the regular refrain from drivers all over the northwest because the repair is going to cost someone some money. In 1992 alone, insurance companies forked out £3.5 billion putting vehicles together again.
This garage on the outskirts of Manchester repairs dozens of crashed cars each year. The customer expects the car to be put back into the same condition as it was in before the accident. Here, that means they will only use panels and repair parts supplied by the original manufacturer.
But to keep costs down, insurance companies tell body shops to use panels made by independent companies. On average, these non-original or copy parts are about two-thirds the normal price. And not surprisingly, big car makers are unhappy because this loses them money. But though they're cheaper, copy parts may not last as long as manufacturers' originals. Ford compared their own panels with cheaper imitations and concluded that the non-Ford wings were lower in quality. Although independent parts offer a 6-year corrosion warranty, many repairers don't like them. Their trade organisation, the VBRA, says copy panels don't always match properly.
The main problem that a repairer has with these is the fit, and we do have several problems around top of the lights and bottom of the panels where basically a lot of extra pressure has to be put on and take a lot more time to actually put that repair right.
And time, they say, means high labour costs, making the job cost almost as much as with an original part, but with lower quality. The companies making copy parts deny there's a problem with them.
We've been supplying panels, our industry that is, for over 20 years, and the level of complaints is very, very small indeed. And there has never been an accident in the history of our industry that has been attributed to the using or fitting of our parts.
But the people who do fit the parts say it takes them a lot longer to fit because they don't fit.
Well, that isn't the evidence that we have. People buy them regularly. Over 3 million parts per year are sold in the industry. They're fitted by the body repairers, and we just don't get that level of complaint.
But few of those body parts are requested by private customers. The owner has little choice when it's an insurance job. And though the Consumers Association says it means lower premiums in the long run, the VBRA claim customers are not told when copy parts are used in an insurance repair.
A survey that I did of members, it did show that around about 15% of them had actually been told not to tell their customer, the policyholder, what type of panel was being put on the vehicle. Now, as an association, we say the customer should know what is happening to his vehicle.
Liverpool's Royle Insurance encourages the use of copy panels, but only on a vehicle over 4 years old.
Our responsibility is to return the vehicle in a better condition or similar condition to prior to the accident.
You don't see it as a duty then to tell people what parts you've used?
Not as a duty. If the car goes in for a service, they may fit a non-original shock absorber exhaust or whatever, and it would be difficult to tell an individual in every case.
So if you want to know what parts have been used in a repair to your vehicle, ask and get it in writing.
Well, it certainly brings the garage bill down, but is it worth it in the long run? Now, recently, Ian Royle was flown over to the United States to test drive a tasty little offering from BMW, the Z3. The authorities even very kindly closed the roads off for driving on the left so that he felt at home.
This is a major BMW manufacturing plant where the Z3 is made. But no, it isn't in Bavaria. This is Spartanburg, South Carolina, in the U.S.A. When BMW decided to produce the Roadsters here, it really shocked the motoring world. Surely a BMW just wouldn't be authentic manufactured outside Bavaria. Now, the plant has had its problems. Early quality glitches had to be ironed out, and that put the Z3, or should we say Z3 models, to be made for the lucrative American market back, which in turn put back production for our right-hand drive market. Now that left BMW Great Britain in an embarrassing position. The Z3 was launched as far back as 1995, but it's taken a long time for those models to arrive on the UK market, and in the meantime we've seen the likes of the Porsche Boxster, the Lotus Elise and the Mercedes SLK arrive, which are all very powerful models compared to the 1.9 Z3. But now BMW have upped the stakes with this, the 2.8 litre. So the 2.8 litre engine gives 193 brake horsepower, and that compares to the 1.9 litres 140 brake horsepower, so it's obviously a lot more powerful engine. You get a 0 to 60 time of under 7 seconds, top speed of 135 miles an hour. So this car really is ideally suited up against the likes of the Boxster, the Elise and the SLK compressor. Even though there are plenty of orders for the Z3 in the UK, it has to be admitted that the existing 4-cylinder 1.9 engine doesn't exactly thrill in the performance department. Yes, it's smooth and refined as you'd expect from a Beamer. It's taken from the 318 injection, but there'll be many drivers who've been waiting in anticipation for the new 6-cylinder power plant under the bonnet. Now, we first saw the Z3 about 2 years ago in the James Bond film GoldenEye, and that was enough to make over 3,000 people back in the UK place their orders for the Z3s, the 1.9 litre engine. After some initial production problems, the 1.9 litre engine has started arriving in the UK, but if you have a 1.9 litre car or you have one on order, then this version of the Z3 might disappoint you, because this is the 2.8 litre engine, 6-cylinder, and it's an absolute peach.
I suppose the main differences, apart obviously from the engine, which is a 6 against a 4, the main differences are it has ASC plus T anti-slip control. That prevents the rear wheels from spinning if you get into wet conditions or something and you let the clutch out a bit too sharply. So it has that. It has an electric hood, so the cultural amenity that's becoming a requirement of more upscale roadster cars. And of course different alloy wheels and slightly wider wheels and tyres, which I suppose befit the engine capability.
Chris, was the 2.8 litre Z3 always planned, or was it rather a knee-jerk reaction to Mercedes coming out with the SLK or the Boxster, the Lotus Elise and so forth?
No, it was planned from the very beginning. The objective was it was a new plant, as you've seen. It was a new car, and they wanted to produce, first of all, the volume car. I mean, clearly more people can afford a car at around £20,000 than they can at around 28 or around 40, which is what the M Roadster will be. So the 1.9 litre 4-cylinder came in first. The 2.8 now joins it, and the M Roadster comes later this year.
And finally, Chris, the on-the-road price of the 2.8 litre?
It's £28,115, and that's an on-the-road price, so it's ready to go straight out of the dealership.
So who are the main competitors for the 2.8 litre engine?
Well, the obvious one is the Mercedes SLK. I mean, it's a different car in many ways, but in price terms, you're looking at similarity. This is the 2.8 is a wee bit cheaper than the SLK, and the Boxster, which again is another jump up. But we regard the M Roadster as being the principal Boxster competitor. That's a car which has 321 brake horsepower. The accent is absolutely firmly on performance.
So with the Z3 you can have great fun looking at the evolutionary routes. So take a look now at these historic roadsters that BMW put in convoy for us. Now the outside of the car may look good. Inside, it's classic BMW. You get leather as standard, these gorgeous chrome bezels, and on the gear lever as well. You can have some wood specified on cars that come to the UK. Standard on the car, you get an electric power roof, you get traction control, air conditioning as an extra, and also later in the year, a hard top option too for use during the winter. So we're partway through our test drive in this 2.8 litre Z3. You may be wondering what's happening at the moment. Well, what BMW have actually managed to do in arrangement with the police over there, the troopers at the moment are closing off a section of the road, about a 4-mile section of the road, which is going to be completely closed to other traffic and which will allow us in our right-hand drive cars in America to drive on the left as we would in Britain. It's amazing what they can do for the British journalists when they come to America. Well, this surely is a historic occasion. Not since the mad days of King George III did vehicles travel on the left in America, and they arranged it all for the sake of Granada Men and Motors. Well, part of our test route today in the 2.8 litre Z3 is through the Blue Ridge Mountains, not of Virginia, but of North Carolina. Still, it's a gorgeous route to drive, and it's absolutely perfect in this particular car. We've got the roof down, it's a lovely day, and it demonstrates the Z3's outstanding qualities. The engine is an absolute peach. The torque in it is quite superb. You can find yourself going up a twisty mountain road in 4th gear without having to knock down that gear, which you perhaps would do in the 1.9 litre version. This is the Z3 production line at Spartanburg, South Carolina in America. Before joining the Spartanburg factory, most of these workers had no experience whatsoever of the motor industry. Yet BMW was determined to use local labour to the full, indeed to utilise man and woman power instead of robots for many operations. No car manufacturer has ever set up a huge factory like this anywhere before. The Japanese had done something similar, but only with a tried and tested model. The Nissan Sunderland factory, for example, first started production of the established Bluebird. But here in South Carolina, 1,700 inexperienced people would be manufacturing the all-new Z3, inheriting all the problems any new model would bring. New suppliers had to be sourced, and there was the 6,000-mile communications line back to Germany. On top of this, BMW set very tight deadlines, saying that cars should be produced within 2 years of construction starting. Surely, BMW was taking an incredible risk.
We realized that we had several risks that we were facing, from new platform, meaning new car, the Z3, new workers, new management team, new processes. We were facing quite a few issues here that were of monumental risk to the company. So we looked very carefully for an infrastructure that helped us to minimize those risks. Obviously, it's impossible to eliminate them.
Many critics thought BMW was crazy and that it was a huge gamble to produce an all-new model with new management, new inexperienced workforce, new production processes and a new supplier network. And all this in a huge new complex in an area of the States with no history of automotive manufacture.
Initially, there was a lot of misperception regarding why we came here, and oftentimes the issue of labor costs was brought up. But frankly, the financial incentive is really the dollar-Deutschmark relationship, and by building BMWs and sourcing parts in dollars, it gives us a chance to truly balance the Deutschmark. That was really the financial incentive. In terms of low cost, if that's what we were seeking, we would never have come to the United States. This is not a low-cost area to produce.
They have an excellent benefit package. The pay is wonderful. I can afford things that I previously couldn't afford, my other jobs, and I think it helps out a lot. For our area, this company here is paying, above what most companies in the area are paying.
What we're looking at here is an amazing success story. Sure, more than a few glitches troubled the initial production, but now the Spartanburg plant has broken through the pain barrier and it's steaming away on full power, producing Z3s of a quality any Bavarian quality manager would be proud of. And this point is important. For the team in South Carolina, quality had to be all.
Everyone here is real high on quality. Quality is number one. And I think everyone here has a sense of pride when they complete their job and they feel that they've done the best that they could in producing a high-quality car. and that we're doing it just, you know, even though we haven't been here long, that we're doing it just as well as people that's been doing it for a long time.
Here, I think we try to produce the finest quality cars we can. We have a lot of procedures in place to, you know, check for that. And like I say, I work with the quality support group, inspect the cars daily, and I see that, you know, they are of high quality coming off.
I think the quality issue was probably an initial thing that came up. A lot of people were concerned about that. But what we have shown here at the plant, that if it's made by BMW, that there's no one anywhere in the world that should worry about where the car is made, because our quality is comparable to any car currently built anywhere at any of our plants.
One of the problems in the early days of 3 Series and Z3 production was with paint, where BMW was experimenting with water-based paint technology for the very first time. Substandard finishes were rejected and the production line halted until the problems with the new paint technology were solved.
Very nice. I'd like to get my hands on one of those. That's it for part 1. Join us after the break when we'll discover the origins of the windscreen. Welcome back. Now, I bet you never thought that there's very much behind the development of your ordinary car windscreen. Well, you're wrong. Have a look at this.
I suppose in the first instance with motor cars, they had nothing to screen them from the wind and rain. Glass was available, but glass wasn't very safe. But for many years, people used plate glass, ordinary plate glass in windscreens, with obvious consequences, with some very serious accidents. And this was a position that went on until 1910, when, like all good chemistry, some chemist knocked a flask of material over onto the floor, left it overnight, and when he came back, the flask was still in one piece. What he'd done is to make cellulose acetate, and cellulose acetate polymerizes to give you celluloid, and so celluloid was the first interlayer material on a laminated windscreen. The celluloid bound the glass together so that in the event that it broke, it didn't fly. It was much more safe. The old glass, which was laminated, the cellulose acetate or cellulose nitrate type of laminate, had a feature which many of you may remember, which is that it tended to go yellow in sunlight. So some of the very old cars from the 1920s looked as though they had yellow glass. This was just a degradation of the cellulose nitrate in the interlayer.
These days, the production of laminated glass incorporates PVB instead of the old yellowing cellulose nitrate. The 1949 Austin A90 was one of the first to use a curved screen with a wraparound rear, and as time went on with car designs, a larger area could be glazed without compromising safety, strength, or optical quality. If you wonder why there are these black bits around the edge of your windows, they're actually ceramic obscuration bands, baked on and help to stop sunlight from affecting the strength of the adhesive which keeps the glass secure. When you look at the variety of vehicles on our roads today, you'll appreciate the work that glass manufacturers do. Some hatchbacks have huge rear screens with steep angles of rake requiring improved optical quality. Manufacturers have demanded glass which is completely flush with the body for reduced drag and wind noise. We also have today heated windscreens and side windows, tinted glass, and glass which restricts heat transmission. We'll have more on car glass topics in coming weeks, but auto historians wonder if the takeoff of the safer laminated glass would have been as quick if Henry Ford hadn't had an accident.
Henry Ford had a road accident, which was reported in the press, and so somebody from Triplex actually sent a cable telling him what was available, and of course the product went from there.
Plate glass used up to 1910, it's amazing. That's it for today. We leave you with a nostalgic drive down memory lane in the good old Ford Escort, which, if reports are to be believed, may be in for a name change in the near future. See you next week.